It's only going to get weirder. The level of contradiction is going to rise excruciatingly, even beyond the excruciating present levels of contradiction. I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It is under the sway of what I call the transcendental object at the end of time. The planet is on a collision course with the most profound event it's possible to imagine, the freeing of organic life from the chrysalis of matter. For 1 billion years there's been life on this planet, but never life that could step outside of matter. But this is obviously what's in the cards. Processes are now in play which so totally rewrite the script that no one can imagine.
He predicted everything. And when you realize this interview was filmed back in 1998, it's downright astonishing. In those quiet moments on tape, he laid out ideas that perfectly foresaw how our everyday lives would spiral into chaos. Month after month, year after year, things keep getting weirder and we all notice it. And if everything he predicted comes true, it'll only get weirder. But his explanation now makes perfect sense. This is one of my favorite talks because just when you think it's a relic of the past, you see that what he said is exactly what we live every day. It's truly eye-opening.
So what we have here is a new model of time based on a very real intuition that I think most people share, which is that time is speeding up, that human beings are part of that process, and that the culmination of that process is now within the ven of historical time. Whether you believe, as I do, that we can know the precise moment of this transformation of the world of time, or whether you believe it is simply coming soon and fast, really doesn't make that much difference. We are all gathered here at the end game of developmental processes on this planet. We are about to become unrecognizable to ourselves as a species. Our technologies, our religions, our science has pushed us toward this for thousands of years without us awakening to what the denouement would be. Now we stand close enough to it that I think all but the most lumpen among us must feel the tug of the transcendental and the transformative.
Time isn't just marching on, it seems to be sprinting. Think about it. Back when everything was slower, a day might have felt long and full of possibilities. Now each second is crammed with changes, challenges, and breakthroughs, as if the clock's hand are blurred by the sheer rush of events unfolding around us. It's like the universe turned the dial up to 11. Every moment feels loaded with a world of activity and possibility that we can barely keep up with. And that's exactly where things start to get wild. Just when you think you've grasped the pace, the surprise is lurking around the corner. Ready or not, we're about to see what happens when this race against time spills over into something even more extraordinary.
I am very perplexed when you say that time is speeding up. As far as I can tell, such things as crystal oscillators, things which keep time, clocks, the relationship of the earth turning to the calendar, the full moon, all of the things which are symptoms of our passage through time, don't seem to be throwing themselves out of kilter. So how do you really mean about time speeding up?
Well, let me answer in the form of a question. Which lasts longer? 1 million years in which nothing happens, or 10 seconds with 50,000 events crammed into it? What I mean really is that more and more is happening. More and more is happening. And if you ask the question, well, what would be the ultimate state of connectivity or of happening? It's when all points are connected to all other points. Somehow this concept of connectivity is intimately linked to the concept of complexity. And so really what I'm saying is that the universe is getting its act together. It's connecting the dots. It's bringing everything into co-relationship with everything else. And somehow it does this through the production of consciousness. Consciousness is this integrative function in biology which takes data which may appear profoundly unrelated, and in fact brings it into some kind of a congruent relationship. We say an organism coordinates a point of view. Well, in a way, what's happening over time is that the universe is coordinating a point of view. And as it does this, it becomes somehow more aware, more self-conscious, more being-like and less thing-like. And as I said, this process is not proceeding at a steady pace. It's proceeding faster and faster. More connectivity occurs now in a calendar year than occurred in 1,000,000 years, 1,000,000,000 years ago.
This makes so much sense. Our familiar timekeepers, clocks, calendars, the Earth's rotation haven't changed at all. Yet our experience of time feels radically different. As we mature, we all sense that time is speeding up. But it's not just a trick of aging. Today, every moment is jam-packed with events. And it's not just mundane stuff like to-do lists. It's real, world-shaking events. Look at the past 5 years. Just imagine where we'll be in 5, 10, or even 50 years. It's overwhelming, to say the least. And here's where it really gets interesting. While it might seem like he's simply talking about time running faster, he's actually hinting at something even more profound. A kind of ultimate climax or eschaton that's yet to unfold. If you think you've wrapped your head around just how fast things are changing right now, just wait until we dig even deeper into what he's saying later. This is one of the most eye-opening interviews I've ever listened to. It doesn't just make you think about the passing of time, it challenges you to imagine a future where everything as we know it is about to be completely transformed.
A really common, ordinary way to describe the times that we're living in is that they're very, very chaotic, filled with acts of unspeakable evil, and at the same time, there's this sort of buzz and thrust of optimism, everything from a guy like Peter Schwartz talking about the long wave, the big booming economy, breakthroughs in educational levels and qualities of life. But it's definitely a dynamic where you've got extremes of good and evil in that way. Would you talk a little bit about the relationship between that dynamic as we go forward and the novelty continues to climax?
Well, novelty is not necessarily good or nice. Novelty is complex. That's what it is. And so I see really a concatenation of tendencies and forces here at the end. It's only going to get weirder. The level of contradiction is going to rise excruciatingly, even beyond the excruciating present levels of contradiction. I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. And at that point, novelty theory can come out of the woods, because eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's just too nuts. It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. I look for the invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, possible human immortality, and at the same time, appalling acts of brutality, genocide, race baiting, homophobia, famine, starvation, because the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed. the collapse of the socialist world, the rise of the internet. These are changes so immense, nobody could imagine them ever happening. And now that they have happened, nobody even bothers to mention what a big deal it is. The fact that there is no such thing as the Soviet Union, people never talk about it anymore. But when I was a kid, the notion that that would ever change was beyond conceiving. So the good news is that as primates, we're incredibly adaptable to change. Put us in a desert, we survive. Put us in the jungle, we survive. We can put up with about anything, and it's a good thing because we're going to be tested to the limits.
Think of our current times as a storm of extremes. On one hand, there's undeniable chaos, acts of cruelty, violence, and things that shake us to our core. On the other hand, there's a palpable surge of hope, breakthrough innovations, improved education, economic booms, and the promise of a brighter future. It might seem like these forces are at odds, but they're actually two sides of the same coin. What he's pointing out is that this mix of overwhelming challenges and exhilarating progress isn't random. Instead, it's part of a larger process. As more events and experiences pile up, the universe itself seems to be nudging us towards a major transformation. In simple terms, the very chaos we witness is setting the stage for a powerful shift, a tipping point that will redefine how we live and connect with one another. This tension between dark and light, disruption and renewal, is exactly what might propel us into a new era. And that's the big question. How will these opposing forces shape our future?
I want to go to this stuff about the strange attractor at the end of history.
Right.
Never ever, considered that notion that we are being pulled as opposed to simply just going on forever and ever. And that's for sure something that people are going to go, huh?
What the universe is doing is it is under the sway of what I call the transcendental object at the end of time. And that is this domain of hyperconnectivity, that it would be perfect novelty. And all nature aspires for this state of perfect novelty. You could almost say that nature abhors habit, and so it seeks the novel by producing various kinds of phenomena at every level in biology, chemistry, and society. And so there really is a purpose to the universe. Its purpose is this state of hypercomplexification in which all of its points become related to each other, become what mathematicians call cotangent. And it gives the universe the feeling of being imbued with a caring presence. It makes it appear as though nature is tending toward something, and it changes our own ethical and moral position in the universe. Because, science tells us that we're the products of a cosmic accident. We're at the edge of an ordinary galaxy in an ordinary star system, and we're damn lucky to be here. And that's it. That's our place, a very existential notion of our place in the cosmos. The purpose of being a human is to complexify reality even more, to hand on a more diverse, more complicated, more multifaceted universe to our children. And when this process of complexification reaches the omega point, it will fulfill, I believe, the expectations of all of these religions, but it will fulfill it in a mature, scientific, and universal way.
Now hold on a moment. He talks about the process of complexification, how everything in our world becomes more intricate and connected over time until it all converges into one grand unified state. Imagine starting with something simple, like a single cell. Over time, that cell replicates and forms a complex organism. Now scale that idea up. As individual events, ideas, and people connect more deeply, our society becomes an enormous network, a living, breathing web of relationships and data. From a scientific perspective, think of it like a network that grows more interconnected with every new link, eventually reaching a point where every node is linked to every other node. It's the same way our understanding of the universe evolved, from simple particles to the vast complexity of life and consciousness as we see it today. Now, if we look at it from a more spiritual or symbolic viewpoint, there's a striking parallel to biblical imagery. Consider Revelation 21:4, which he says, "He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying of pain, for the old order of things has passed away." This passage speaks of an end, an ultimate transformation, where everything that came before is redefined, much like his idea of reaching the omega point. That is, the culminating moment when all complexity and connectivity converge into a new transcendent state. In short, our world is in a constant process of building up, layer upon layer of complexity that will eventually lead us to an ultimate transformation. Whether seen through the lens of science, technology, or spirituality, the message is clear. We're hurtling towards a moment when the accumulated change reaches a tipping point, rewriting the rules of existence as we know them. And if you think that's wild now, just wait until we explore what this means for our future.
But several factors are on the horizon which I think can be brought together to sort of get a picture of what we're headed toward. One is for some time now, we've been involved in building complex prostheses, which we call machines and computers. They are part of us. We don't perceive them as part of us because we identify with the flesh and exteriorize the fabricated metal. But in fact, they are a part of us as much as our political systems, our agriculture production systems, so forth and so on. So we are extending ourselves through the machines. Well, one of the things that these machines do is they're time compressors. You and I sitting here talking are operating at about 100 hertz. If we could be magically downloaded into a top-of-the-line computer, we would run at 800 megahertz. That means we could do 800 million more things in this moment than we can do when we're wearing flesh. So it may be that we will find a way to technologically stretch time, and this will become for us like a false eternity. You may have only 10 minutes left in your life, but it may be time enough to pack in all of human history from the fall of Rome to the present moment. So we are finding ways out of the three-dimensional Newtonian prison, which says, life is narrow and confined and ends at the grave. And we're doing it by becoming information that is freed from material. And somehow this allows us to make this ascent to the next dimensional modality. Information is not time and space constrained the way we are. We talk about the difficulty of moving an object at the speed of light. Our entire planetary technology cannot achieve moving a marble at the speed of light. But we can move information at the speed of light. Tetrabytes of it. We do this every day. We are about to take the step out of matter. The planet is on a collision course with the most profound event it's possible to imagine. The freeing of organic life from the chrysalis of matter. For 1 billion years there's been life on this planet, but never life that could step outside of matter. But this is obviously what's in the cards, and we are privileged to be central to that event.
We're on the brink of stepping beyond the physical confines of our existence. For centuries, our lives have revolved around tangible matter, our bodies, the weight of our objects, the slow march of physical processes. But everything is changing. Today, information travels at the speed of light, and our technology is beginning to free that information from its material chain. Our world is no longer limited by the traditional three-dimensional space that once defined us. Instead, we're moving toward a future where our ideas, memories, and even aspects of our consciousness can exist in a digital, almost limitless realm. Science supports this vision. The faster we process and exchange information, the more we blur the line between the physical and the virtual. Our digital devices, acting as extensions of ourselves, are already transforming how we interact with the world. And as these advancements continue, the constraints that once held us back, gravity, inertia, the slow pace of biological time, may soon become relics of the past. But stop for a moment. Is this really the world we're headed toward? Consider Elon Musk's Neuralink, the ubiquity of ChatGPT, and the constant chatter about AI this and AI that. Do we ever pause to ask, where will we be in the next 50 years? Unlike his "Can you imagine the world in 500 years" challenge, which is nearly impossible to fathom, we're forced to confront that everything is not only speeding up, but accelerating into an even more chaotic, unpredictable future. And honestly, that's pretty scary. These times are unsettling. The relentless pace of change can feel overwhelming, as if there's no escape from the rapid surge of technology and transformation. Yet, if everything he describes as the unfolding will of the universe, or God, maybe this acceleration is exactly how it's meant to be. I don't have all the answers. All I know is this. We're hurtling towards a future where the old rules no longer apply, and that future is both thrilling and daunting. It challenges us to keep questioning and seeking meaning in a world where change is the only constant.
So the whole entire Milky Way galaxy is a being?
Well, it's an organism, yes. The galaxy is a kind of an organism. You can think of it as a fractal resonance with a cell. The galaxy has a nucleus of very dense material where very mysterious processes are going on. Then it has a cytoplasmic envelope of stars and gas clouds that surround that core. And then it is an individual, very distinctly defined by the vast emptiness that lies between it and the next galaxy. Every star is a data point in an enormous computer simulation of the novelty wave. That's why it has that spiral structure. You know, scientists are very puzzled that the galaxies don't fly apart. They don't seem to have enough mass that their gravitation should hold them together. And there's been a lot of talk about dark matter or some missing factor. Well, the missing factor is novelty. The galaxy stays together because the galaxy wants to be a galaxy. So everything organizes itself fractally, spirally, with a dense center in its spatial domain and a dense center in its temporal domain. We are like this. Galaxies are like this. Planets, stars, bird flocks, coral reefs. But in the case of the galaxy, it's particularly easy to observe the structure because the thing is so huge that its forces dominate and damp out other forces which might distort it.
Time's not just flying, it's sprinting. Days blur, news cycles spin, and every hour packs in what used to take years. Clocks haven't changed, but we have. Life's getting louder, faster, weirder, and yeah, it's exhausting. But here's the twist. This chaos isn't random. It's the universe tightening its grip, pulling us towards a breakthrough. Think of it like a storm. Storms aren't here to wreck things. They're here to clear the air. Right now, everything feels upside down. Old systems crumble, new ideas clash, and the future is a blur. But hidden in this mess is a pattern. More people connecting, more ideas colliding, more possibility. It's like the world's building a puzzle we can't see yet, and every piece, even the scary ones, snap us closer to the finish. We're built for this. Humans adapt. We've survived ice ages, wars, pandemics. Now, we're facing a different kind of test, keeping up with a world that won't stop changing. The endpoint? A world so connected, so alive with collaboration, that the old limits, time, distance, even difference, start to melt. Not because machines take over, but because we finally wake up to how powerful we are together.